BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team in our August 21st preseason football preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we are talking about the Merkel Badgers.
Yes, this is a Merkel team that's in a familiar spot. That's been in several times in the past 5 or 6 years. Has a new coach coming in, Coach Westwood coming over from Snyder to take over the Badgers, following a 3-year tenure by Will Cates. And they're coming off a 6-4 season, a winning season. But they have a lot of spots to fill. Just 8 of their 22 lettermen returned from last year's group, including 4 starters on both sides of the ball. So they're going to have a much younger team this year, and they're going to have be relying on some reinforcements from a JV team that struggled quite a bit last year. So Coach Wood's going to have some work cut out for him this year in terms of laying that foundation for his program, kind of setting the expectations, and we'll see how it goes. Obviously, a lot of questions. The Merkel Badgers probably have more questions than a lot of the other programs that we've been talking about in the recent weeks, but this is going to be an interesting year, just in that it's first year with Coach Wood. We'll be interested to see kind of the foundation he lays and kind of the direction he takes them.
All right, before we get going on tonight's segment, we want to remind you YouTubers to please hit the subscribe button, and also please hit that bell so you get notifications each and every time that Big Country Preps comes up with a new video. Also, we'd like to thank a couple of our sponsors, beginning with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of KLAX 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, give Rob a shot at 254-559-2266. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. That is Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge.
All right, and with that, let's go ahead and jump in and talk about these Merkel Badgers and some of the biggest questions they're facing. Like we said, this is a team with a lot of question marks going into the season. I think one of the biggest is with Coach Westwood taking over that program. What changes are we going to see? What kind of schematic things are we going to see implemented? What kind of just everything that pertains to taking over a program and trying to get it going in the direction you want it. What is it going to look like this year with Coach Westwood? He was able, obviously, to do some of those things over at Snyder before making the move over. I'm interested to see if this will mirror that or kind of how it will play out. But I do think that it's going to be interesting. This is a Merkel program that had finally gotten a little bit of stability with Coach Cates, like we said, but they're back in a familiar spot with a new coach. I'm interested to see kind of how that transition goes.
I'm curious. I mean, they've only got 4 starters back on both sides of the ball. They've only got 8 lettermen. There's just not a lot of experience. The numbers are low right now. I think they have about 24 people on the roster. A lot of them are going to be call ups from a JV team that struggled last year. They were 0-10 last year. So how many of those kids can help? How many of those kids from the JV team that was 0-10 last year can come up and step up their game and help the varsity to move forward and help Westwood can establish a culture there to get the foundation in place. And if you look at the schedule, which we will here in a second, this is going to be one of those years where you just try to get in my opinion, you try to get the foundation in place, try to build some confidence, and snag a playoff spot if possible.
Yeah, and I think this is, you mentioned the word culture. I think that's going to be a big part of this year, is just establishing a culture. I think you mentioned the schedule. Their schedule is absolutely brutal for a team that's kind of rebuilding the way this one is. I think you're going to have to take the victories where they come, and then, like you said, just try to work on laying that foundation, establishing your culture, doing all the things that the first-year coach wants to do to set this program up for success in the future, and we'll see how that goes. The last question I have kind of pertains to that. They lost a lot of production from last year's team. Like we said, 7 starters on both sides of the football, including some guys who were really good players for them. Running back Connor Williard ran for a bunch of yards. He's off to Hardin Simmons. Maddox O'Malley, who got hurt last year, has been quarterback receiver, done a whole lot of really good things for them. He's gone. They've lost just a lot of really good players. Dalton Duncan, an O-lineman, a big O-lineman, who'd been a big part of what they've done up front. So I'm interested to see just how are they going to replace some of these guys? Who's going to fill in and establish themselves as leaders in this program and kind of get it going in the right direction? I think that's going to be a big part of this year, is just getting some experience under your belt, establishing some leaders so that this program can get where it wants to go. And we'll see how that plays out.
All right, with that, we're going to take a look at Merkel's schedule for 2024. We'll start with the non-district portion. On August 30th, they open up with Ballinger. They will go to Bangs a week later on September the 6th, and another road date at Holly on the 13th. They host Albany on the 20th. They travel to Cisco on the 27th. They host Lubbock Trinity Christian, another toughie on October the 4th, and then they jump into district.
Yeah, and things do not get any easier when you jump into district. You're talking about a really tough final 4 game stretch non-district, and then from there you go straight into a home game against presumptive district favorite Wall on October 11th before having finally getting a little bit of a break with your open date on the 18th. Then they come home to play what will be a big game for them against Stanton at home on the 25th. Then they finish with 2 road games at San Angelo Grape Creek on the 1st of November and at Kahoma on the 8th of November. So it's got. I think this is kind of an interesting schedule. You've got a couple games right off the bat that I think you would consider winnable, and then once you get to district, there are some opportunities to get wins. And with a 5-team district, you only need to win one of them to get in the playoffs. And to me, that's the goal for Merkel is to find a way to win one or two of those district games to get into the playoffs. That would be a huge step for what is going to be a very young team.
You got 4 guys back on each side of the ball. You have 8 lettermen. You have an 0-10 JV, and you have a non-district schedule that features powerhouses like Holly, Cisco, Albany, Lubbock Trinity Christian.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't understand that. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's rough.
that's what a lovely surprise. Who designed this? Amber Heard? I
Yeah, it's
mean,
a tough
you couldn't
schedule.
leave somebody with a more lovely surprise.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule. But like I said, once you get to district, you've got an opportunity. I think we always talk about the game of the year. To me, the game of the year is that November 1st game at San Angelo Grape Creek. That's the one you've got to win if you want to make the. I mean, presumably that's going to be the game on your schedule that is the most likely win there. If you win that one, and the great thing about a 5-team district, you win that one, you're in most likely. And then obviously the week before that at home against Stanton will also be a big one. That's the other one that looks winnable on their schedule. So like I said, to me, the goal has to be just try to get your way into the playoffs any way you can. If you can do that, that's a good building block for the future years.
As far as I'm concerned, the game of the year for Merkel is I'm going to take him over Great Creek, which gets him in the playoffs. I think Stanton, the game against Stanton on the 25th, that's the one that they can actually. I mean, I think they're going to get in the playoffs with a win over Grape Creek, and then if they knock off Stanton, which they can do, it's possible. Um, Even with the numbers down, they can secure a higher playoff seed. So I think that's the if you're going to pick a game of the year for Merkel, I would take that one.
Yeah, I didn't do it. Those to me are the 2 big games for them this year. The one thing, this is one of those years where you want to preach patience to fans because record wise, this year may not be what you want to see, just as far as the win loss record. But this year, if you can get into the playoffs and you can establish that culture, lay that foundation, it's a winning year in my opinion. So that to me should be is the goal for this Merkel squad.
All right, well, that's about time to wrap up the countdown to two-a-days series for tonight, the Merkel Badgers. But we want to remind you that on August 21st, that's the big night here at Big Country Preps. That's when we release our annual preseason football preview, August 21st. Remember, it's going to have more stuff than any media source can provide you on Big Country Football. We'll have player features for every single team, a preview for every single team. We'll have opinion pieces, we'll have stats, we'll have standings, we'll have video, we'll have a ton of photos. You name it, we'll have it. It is a ton of material, a lot. And as Dan is about to tell you, it's going to get even bigger this year.
Yeah, this year we are expanding our coverage area by 5 schools, increasing our base 40 11-man teams to 45 with the addition of Mineral Wells, Glen Rose, Graham, Toller, and Miles. So we are super excited to add those 5 schools to the mix. We hope y'all are excited to follow our coverage of those schools throughout this school year. In the meantime, we appreciate you joining us for this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Day series, and we hope you come back tomorrow when we talk about the Wall Hawks here at BigCountryPreps.com.